In this short chapter, I will show you how I usually organize my scenes. When working on your own, and most importantly, when working for a client, organizing your scenes is a key step for success. Perhaps you will find it unnecessary, but trust me when I say that in the long run, it pays to be organized. Take for example this scene. Let's have a look at my materials. I have a lot of repeated ones, and they do not possess any kind of naming standard. If I want to change, say, the specular level of the shower glass material, I will spend a lot of time searching through the vast amount of materials I have. So now I have to find the glass simple material. And it's nearly impossible, considering that I can have more than one. Okay. So, before you get yourself in this mess, take some time to rename the materials in a way that makes sense to you. You can also remove the unused and duplicate materials. That way you'll find it easier to navigate and modify them. Okay, so now I've eliminated them, and it's far easier to find and modify them, because now I don't have 10 materials of the same type. So, how would I organize my scene? I normally use a lot of null objects that are named according to the type of objects that they contain. In this simple scene, I have 3 main null objects. One for the built parts of the scene, another one for the objects, and another one for the scene parts, say the lights, the cameras, etc. So let's have a look to each one of them. The first one contains the ceiling. You can see it here, but it's there. The floor and the walls. The walls is a bool object. I normally like to keep my objects parametric so I can modify them. I have the walls, that way it's a sweep nerves, so I can modify the height. And I have another null object that would contain the window, so if I want to add another window, I would just group it under this null object and have it there. The next null object is pretty straightforward. It's just one null object that contains other null objects, and each of them contain one of the objects of the scene. So I can easily change all the materials in my scene for each of the objects without having to search in all of the object manager for them. And finally, if I want to change the lighting scheme, I can just drill down the first 2 null objects and go directly to my scene one. So here I have my camera. I usually use a protection tag because when I'm modeling or changing the lighting, I like to move around and I change all my angles. So just right click on it, Cinema 4D tags, and use a protection tag. That way you can't move the camera and you have to deselect it first. And I have another 2 null objects. Each of them has its own sky with a different material applied. Each material named accordingly. This one for the night sky and this one for the day sky. Each of the schemes has its own lights. So whenever I want to change the light scheme, and the only thing that I have to do is hide and show the other one. So if I want a day render, I would just do that. So here is my day render with sunlight coming from the window. And if I want to have a night render this time, it's as simple as hiding a null object. So there you go, one of the multiple benefits of organizing your scene. When I have an idea and start working on it, I often find myself with unmanageable clusters of objects that seem a bit understandable while working on them, but when I open that same scene 2 or 3 days later, I find it really difficult to work in it. So after some minutes of work, or when you feel you're running out of inspiration, or you simply need a break, take a few minutes to rename and organize your objects and materials. So, why do I invest a whole chapter on this aspect? Because I think it's one of the most important steps on creating anything 3D. Doing so has saved me in tight deadlines, and you will find it incredibly rewarding when you have to rework the scene next week, next month, or a year later, and especially when you have to send the scene to a partner, you will save him of a headache.